aircraft on display, and there's getting more of them all the time. Today I'm going to highlight for you some more unique and historic military civilian 6B Prowler. This is the gray aircraft over on the left side of the tram that has the long tube coming out of its nose. This is an electronic warfare aircraft that was designed to jam, destroy, or confuse enemy radars. This particular plane has a unique and local history. In the late 1990s, the Marines needed more Prowlers. One of the ways they got them was to refurbish old aircraft and put them back into service. For this particular plane, 3 Prowlers were removed from storage over across the street here at the Air Force Base, and their parts were combined into this one aircraft. This plane went into service in 2004, and because of the way it was built from the parts of several aircraft, it got the nickname Frankenprowler. The 2-seat trainer version is Great Britain's very first jet fighter. The Gloucester Meteor is over here on the right side of the tram. The Meteor is the plane on the right in the brown and dark blue camouflage. Meteors were the only Allied jet to see combat during World War II. The 2-seat trainer version like this one was introduced after World War II in 1948, and over 700 of these trainers ended up being built for Great Britain and 7 other foreign militaries. Today, believe it or not, there are still 2 Meteor trainers in use, and they're in use with the Martin Baker Company to test ejection seats of all things. This was originally intended as a 2-seat supersonic jet trainer and flight attack aircraft. In the end, though, the Jaguar was designed as a single-seat interceptor with nuclear capability. They entered service with the French Air Force and the British Royal Air Force in the 1970s. This is our collection of VIP transports. These aircraft have been used to transport high-ranking military officers and government officials. They're generally commercial airliners that have been fitted with modified executive seating. The first VIP transport I want to highlight for you is right here on the right. This is a Lockheed VC-121 Constellation. This particular plane was used by General Dwight Eisenhower when he was commander of Allied forces in Europe after World War II. He named it Columbine after the state flower of Colorado, and you can see the flower represented on the nose of the plane. The green VH-34 Choctaw helicopter on the right side of the tram is an Army VIP helicopter. This helicopter carried Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson between 1960 and 1964. Beginning in 1964, all presidential helicopter operations were transferred to the U.S. Marine Corps instead of the Army. That's why they call it Marine One today. Choctaws remained in use as cargo and transport helicopters until their retirement from military service in 1970. The next 2 VIP transports I want to highlight for you are going to be on the right side of the tram. Both of these have used the call sign Air Force One, meaning they have both been used to carry United States presidents. The first Air Force One I want to highlight for you is right here on the right side of the tram. This is the militarized version of the Boeing 707 airliner, which the Air Force called a VC-137. This particular plane was introduced to the presidential aircraft fleet back in 1959 and is the second of 5 VC-137s to serve the executive branch. During most of this plane's service life, it was used to carry large groups of VIPs, but it did carry President Kennedy on at least one occasion. This plane's real claim to fame, though, is that back in 1981, this plane was used to bring the 52 American hostages held at the embassy in Iran back to the United States after their release. On this occasion, the aircraft used the call sign Freedom One. This call sign was used again 10 years later in 1991 when this plane was used to bring American prisoners of war back from Iraq at the end of the Gulf War. And just before its retirement, this plane also served as Air Force Two, carrying Vice President Al Gore. The next Air Force One I want to highlight for you is right here on the right side of the trail. This is a Douglas VC-118 Liftmaster. This plane is based on the Douglas DC-6 airliner. It's the last propeller-driven aircraft to be assigned as the primary aircraft of the President of the United States. This plane served both Presidents Kennedy and Johnson. While both presidents preferred to fly on the larger, faster, jet-powered VC-137s like we just saw, this aircraft was kept because many airports at the time were just too small for the big jets. So this small aircraft remained important to the Air Force One fleet. Now coming up on the left side of the tram, you'll see an enormous dark blue flying boat that says Philippine Mars on it. That's one of the most recent additions to our museum, and I'm going to talk about it later in the tour, but this gets you an up-close and personal view of this giant aircraft. Also coming up on the left, you'll see a building. Inside that building is a restored B-17 bomber and a lot of really interesting historic memorabilia from the 390th Bomb Group that actually flew B-17s in World War II. Now, while that museum is not part of our museum, admission to you is free, and I'd highly recommend going in there and checking out that beautiful plane and all that really interesting history that goes with it. Alright, the next collection aircraft I want to show you is the forefront of fighter plane development. The military at that time de-emphasized the maneuverability of the dogfight era and instead emphasized long-range missiles for air-to-air combat. A great example of this era of jet fighter is the F-4 Phantom. The Phantom is the plane on the left side of the tram in the brown and green camouflage that has the little red star on its side. Originally designed as a high-speed interceptor for the U.S. Navy, the Air Force also adopted the Phantom, using it for both air-to-air combat and for bombing ground targets. While this large and fast but less maneuverable plane was at a disadvantage compared to the Soviet Union's fighters that were quicker turning but slower than the Phantom, American pilots quickly overcame the Phantom's deficiencies with better training and superior tactics. Military cargo plane focuses on the
transporting equipment and all that stuff.
Large amounts of supplies so that it goes. Of course, one of the military cargo planes is on a giant gray cargo aircraft on the right side of the tram. That's a Lockheed C-141 Starlifter. This particular type of military cargo aircraft made its maiden flight on December 17, 1963, which was exactly 60 years from the date of the first Wright brothers flight. Starlifters saw extensive service in Vietnam, first flying there back in 1965. A few of these C-141s were actually modified with stronger airframes so they could actually carry the Minuteman missile as part of their cargo. It's the oldest B-52 still in existence, and it's one of only two that were modified to carry and launch the X-15 rocket plane. To fly as the mothership for the X-15, this B-52 was modified back in 1957. This modification included mounting a pylon under the right wing to carry the X-15, as you can see, as well as cutting away part of the bomber's wing to make room for the X-15's tail. The X-15 flew between 1959 and 1968 and set a world speed record of Mach 6.7 and an altitude record of 354,000 feet. Missing some parts. This is called a YC-14, and it was originally designed and built by Boeing Aircraft Corporation back in the 1970s. It was built as a possible replacement for the Lockheed C-130 Hercules cargo aircraft. The Boeing YC-14 and the McDonnell Douglas YC-15 competed to win a contract with the U.S. Air Force. However, neither one of them was selected, and instead, the Air Force just decided on improving versions of the C. Is the silver plane over here on the right side of the tram that has the Trans World Airlines, or TWA, painted in red. It was one of the first long-range civilian airliners to go into service after the war and could carry between 44 and 81 passengers. First group of the long-range bombers to enter service with our U.S. Air Force after the war is the giant aircraft over here on the left side of the tram. This plane is called the B-36 Peacemaker. It's the largest bomber to ever serve in the U.S. Air Force and used 6 of the most powerful piston engines ever developed. The B-36 was the last propeller-driven strategic bomber used by the United States. It went into service in 1949, but it was already becoming obsolete. Helicopter capable of carrying large objects such as artillery pieces, small vehicles, and large amounts of other cargo.
A big ass fire truck. Stuff that these people have come up with. This is a neat museum. These are parts that were recovered. And they can restore them and use them in the museum if they choose to. This one was underwater. That was crazy. With 15 beavers. I'm flying an airplane. Looks like you, Alan. The old trip mover. Yeah, this is where you went along with everybody. Wouldn't we need to have one of these, like have a little freaking cabin built out of it or something? Yeah. This is freaking cool.
My favorite airplane.